This is Andi Purewal, Boxing Social in association with Betfred. We're in New York and I'm joined by Gareth Davies. Gareth, firstly, how are you?
I'm really well, and it's always special to be in New York in a fight week, and it's always special when you're involved in a Madison Square Garden event. You've done them, haven't you now? I've been coming here, my first event here was in 1998. Were you born?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you weren't born?
I was 1997, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you were one, and Lennox Lewis was fighting here. I think it might have been Michael Grant or someone anyway. And there's a special ambience inside Madison Square Garden. There's an electricity in the air. There's magic dust. You know, because there's been so many amazing events here over the years. 1971, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, the first of their trilogy fights, the fight of the century. And because it's New York and because it's a massive media hub, it's just really special. And we're here, it's the workout day, it is busy here. So, and there's history in the making here, but I'm very well, thank you. Got here in one piece after the Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte fight at Wembley, where we were both at on Saturday night and all last week. But yeah, delighted to be on the road again.
We'll come on to that later on, but let's start off with a reason we're here. Katie Taylor, Taylor-Serrano, a huge fight for female boxing. What are your thoughts now, obviously we're only days away now, and what it means for the sport?
Well, it's massive. Women started boxing in the 1700s. But when you go back through the history of what women have had to do, even in gladiatorial Rome in 500 AD, Theodoric, one of the emperors, banned nobles from being gladiators. Bit of history here, because the noble people had started to have gladiators living with them in their villas, and their children had grown up together. And as you know, I'm saying this because when you're in this lifestyle, we're not gladiators, but when you're around this fight circus, the children grew up together, and the children of the nobles became gladiators, and a lot of women became gladiators as well, noble women. So they banned it. Theodoric banned it in 500 AD. And I think through time, women have always wanted to fight. 1700s, they were boxing. 1950s, women started boxing here in America. It took till 1998, when you were 1 year old, for Jane Couch to take the Boxing Board of Control in the UK to court to become the first licensed female professional. She had to box abroad before that. I came to America. She was on the undercard of Lennox Lewis fights, of Roy Jones Jr. fights, of Nazim Hamed fights, but she couldn't fight in the UK. And in the end, she made her debut in, I think it was November 1998, in Caesar's nightclub in Streatham, with a low ceiling where the ring was there. And you could put your hand in the air in the ring and you were literally touching the ceiling. I don't know if Caesar's Streatham is still there, but it was a phenomenal night. And I tell you this because of the journey for women. In 1904, women were exhibition boxing in the Olympics. You know all this? You know all this,
yeah,
don't you? And in 2012, we saw women in the Olympics the first time. One of them, of course, was Katie Taylor, the lightweight champion. And since then, women's boxing has grown exponentially, and it's led to this point, in my view, where we've got a multiple weight, 7-weight world champion in Taylor-Serrano against Katie Taylor, who's a national hero in Ireland. They've both got kind of blockbuster styles. They deliver it, 10 2-minute rounds. Yeah, it'd be nice to have 12 threes for this, but I just think it's going to be a coruscating kind of electric fight where they just go at it round after round. And we're here to witness it. First time women have headlined at Madison Square Garden in 140-year history of this place, and it's sold out. What more can you say? It's a brilliant moment for the female arm of boxing and for us to be involved in it.
One thing I've seen people kind of talk about in the build-up to this fight is for Katie, maybe over the last few fights, she's shown signs that she might be on the decline. And in Amanda's case, last time she fought for a world title was when she defended it down at featherweight, which was only 2 fights ago, so a big jump up to lightweight now. Yeah. When you consider those factors, who do you think will be more affected come Saturday night?
Well, I do think you're right. I think that analysis is correct. When we were here for the first Delphine Persoon fight with Katie Taylor, what's that, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago nearly, and the night that Anthony Joshua was beaten by Andi Ruiz, what a night that was. I felt Katie lost that fight. I certainly scored it for Delphine by a round. And I think since that fight, she's had to change her style. She's in her mid-30s now. And I won't say she's too gun-shy, but the wear and tear in a long amateur career, and the style that she fights in, the weight cuts the whole time, 135 pounds. So I think it's a tough night for her, but she is fighting a woman, as you say, who's come up the weight divisions, who's very good on the inside though. So I'm expecting a really close fight. And I think it will be similar to the Delphine Pursoon fight, that Serrano will keep coming forward in that aggressive Puerto Rican style, trying to be smart on the inside. Katie, I think, will try and work behind her jab more and let flurries of punches go. And her movement's been better in recent fights. But like you say, she avoids toe-to-toe. She's not the raging bell that she was once. And I just think a lot of people are going to be split during this fight. It's going to be really close round by round. But I think Katie Taylor will get a controversial split decision on Saturday night.
Right. I like to sit on the fence, Gareth. I don't like to give predictions if I can avoid it. But obviously, away from this fight, just get your thoughts this past weekend. As you said, we've just come from Wembley, a stunning knockout victory for Tyson Fury against Dillian Whyte. A bit of time to reflect now. What do you make of it now you've had a few days?
Well, Tyson Fury for me dwarfs the other heavyweights in this era in the division. I'd still like to see him have 3 fights. I'd like to see him fight Anthony Joshua, win or lose against Alexander Usyk. I'd like to see him fight the winner of Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua first. Claim the undisputed title if he can beat the winner of that fight. And then fight the loser and also fight Joe Joyce. Then I think he's literally sealed a cap on the era. I think if he walks away now, yes, he'll sit in the same pantheon of the likes of Rocky Marciano or just Rocky Marciano, who retired undefeated, 49-0. But I just think that history will always have a discussion. We'll always have a discussion in history about, could he have just gone on a little bit longer? Because I think he's in his prime. He's awkward, he's difficult. He did everything right against Dillian Whyte on Saturday night. I gave him every round. And then when Dillian fatigued, they'd worked on the uppercuts. He got him in range, and it was the perfect punch to finish the fight. Yeah, he did give him a little shove with his gloves. But that might have saved Dillian getting really beaten up in that round as well. I don't think there'll be a rematch. I don't think Tyson will retire forever. I think he'll be drawn back for another fight. And Paris Fury, whom he promised after the third Wilder fight he would retire, kind of left the door ajar, didn't she, when she said over the weekend that, I don't know if it was at the after party in Essex, but she just kind of said, look, if he wants to fight for the undisputed title, I could see him coming back, and I can see him coming back. Levels to the game. We made them closer and closer and closer as fight week went on. I picked Fury to win on points, or by later stoppage around about 9 or 10. But he just bested Whyte. He bested him in there, and he's really a phenomenal character. To carry that occasion like he did, soak it up. He's like he's in a trance when he goes into those fights. Absolute privilege and a pleasure to be there. And if it's his last punch, witnessed it live. I even got the privilege of jumping in the ring and interviewing Tyson, Paris, John, Huey and Shane for Talk Sport afterwards. On a night where, I was around Tyson Fury when he said some silly things after beating Klitschko, and he was denigrated, and he was villainous at the time. And look how far he's come. He's one of the biggest sport stars in global sports. And we should just enjoy him as long as he's around.
Oh, Gareth, that's perfectly put now. We will end up there because I imagine the workout is about to start. He's meant to start at 1 o'clock. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to me.
Always a pleasure. Cheers, Andy.